Welcome, welcome everyone to this episode of the Expansive CEO Podcast. Uh, I'm probably going to do more of the talking today, but Lauren is here. You want to say hi, Lauren? So everyone can hear.
Friends?
Her voice is a little bit froggy, so we will of course have a beautiful conversation here today, but just a little grace for
Thank you. Yeah. I'll
yeah.
I'll do my best to project.
It's all good. Well, we are officially in March of 2026 at this point, and we just finished up in February. If you go back to our previous episodes, in February we talked all about connections, partnerships, relationships, and we ended on the note of it's really about understanding self leadership, how to lead yourself in order to then be able to effectively lead others, and how the connections between us really matter. So, not just knowing who you are, your definition, and your not self as well. So, yourself and your not self, but then, understanding the people around you as well so that you can effectively lead from a place of, groundedness, knowing yourself, knowing the person across from you as best as you can, um, and working together in that way. And we're gonna take that more um, into bigger systems as we go. We're gonna talk about that kind of in March here. So if we talk a little bit about first the way that expansive CEO um, is centered, is grounded, we have three main pillars of leadership. And again, that's leading yourself and leading others, right? It's all encompassing leadership. Systems. What are the systems that you have in place to support yourself, support your work, and support the others around you? So, all of those systems and money, leadership systems and money. And when we talk about money, one, we literally mean money. And again, I'm a CFP. I understand money, the business side and the personal side. How are we? How are we creating wealth in a way that honors our design, that honors the impact that we're here to make? Everyone is here to have their own unique imprint on the world. That's what I believe very strongly, at least in my own heart. And so, how is your money, our current medium of exchange? How are you utilizing that? How is it moving through the world? Um, and so, from that lens, we're going to keep diving in through those things: leadership, systems, and money. And we're going to talk more again about how this how this comes into play
Mhm.
in your workplace, in your business, um, all of these different things. So I'll pause there for a second. Lauren, what do you have to add?
Yeah, and the idea that those 3 things are not mutually exclusive, right? That it's not we don't just focus on one and then focus on the other and then focus on the third, right? We look at system or leadership systems and money all in connection to one another and within the context of whether you're running a business or you're in a business, and how those 3 things interconnect, interplay, and influence one another, right? How does your leadership influence how systems are set up and the money flows through your life? How does the money you have in the business or personally affect the systems in your life, business or personally, as well as how you lead? And then your systems, in kind of looking in the inverse, are they influencing money, taking away from money, or leadership, right? How do your systems support leadership and money or wealth, abundance, whatever you're looking at? And so really diving into those, they're all energetic exchanges in some way, right? And starting to shift the narrative in that respect, that money in and of itself is energetic. and how you interact with it. And your leadership is energetic. And in some ways, your systems are energetic. And just so weaving in the mechanics of what all of those things look like to support you in building wealth, abundance, prosperity, but recognizing those three things also don't always have to do with money.
Mhm. Yeah, I'm gonna drop my personal definition of prosperity here because it's important and it creates an important frame that prosperity is not about an abundant prosperity, abundance, those two words, either one. I do not believe that they are just about money. It's not just about having more money than you need on a regular basis. That's certainly one expression of it. But my definition of prosperity that I've shared in lots of different ways is that you have time, money, and energy. You have an abundance of time, money, and energy, and you can give of your time, of your money, and or of your energy from a place of overflow. That your cup is so full that it is overflow and that you are giving from the overflow within yourself and that it feels good so that you can give generously without feeling depleted. That's to me, that's the definition of prosperity that I like to tap into and I like to work from because there are different expressions of it and different ways for you to understand where your current abundance and prosperity live. For some people, they have plenty of money and they do feel that. They do feel they can easily give generously of their money. They have more than they need and they can give from that bucket pretty easily. But they might feel really low on their time
Mm,
or really low on their energy. They're like, I can give you money, but I can't volunteer my time. And maybe they want to, right? And so there's this whole conversation to have around what is actually important to you. Where are you spending your time, your money, and your energy? And are you actually utilizing those resources, our most precious resources, especially time and energy? Are you utilizing those effectively for the impact that you actually want to have, for the relationships you want to build and nurture and love on? That is true prosperity. If you can give your time to the things that matter to you, if you can give your energy to the things that matter to you and have the money to support it. Right? It's an interwoven fabric of those three. What comes up for you from that?
it's interesting that you say that because as you were sitting there and talking, it's like, how do you weave all of that together in the idea of leadership systems and money? In how do you become prosperous in all three of those buckets within your business or within your role to build prosperity in a different way or to utilize prosperity in a different way? And it's just I haven't figured it out yet. I'm literally processing this as we sit here, but I think there's an interesting. I'm going to sound like a complete and utter corporate asshole right here, but like I think there's an interesting case study. That's not what I mean. I mean, I think that there's like there's an opportunity to, I don't know, tighten that message or make that message clearer in the work that we do in supporting clients of like, here are the three buckets of leadership systems and money. And we look at it through the lens of prosperity, of time, energy, and money in each of those buckets and how they connect with one another. Um, I just see this like visual coming together. It's not yet organized in my channel of acceptance and design of an organizational being. It'll get there. Um, but that's what keeps coming up is that, making that very succinct in saying that the root of it all is prosperity. And we just happen to do it through the lens of leadership systems and money.
Mhm.
and how we bring those together.
Well, I think this would be a perfect example. It's not a case study because I don't
Okay.
have
Please
I
don't. I didn't mean to
don't
use the word. I just couldn't find a better one.
it's good. It's people understand it. Um, but to kind of bring forward the idea that even what we're doing here, talking about human design, talking about gene keys, talking about the energetic piece that's so important to these pillars. Human Knowing your human design in and of itself, or studying your gene keys sequences in and of itself, is not going to bring you more money.
I'm
Is
gonna
not
need you to say that louder for the people in the back to hear, because
right. Yes, like, we're gonna tap into that. Like, you are not going to make more money just by knowing your human design.
that's not the point.
That's not the point, and, it's really good messaging. It's really alluring.
Oh,
All
it's good.
there's
It is seductive as hell.
Yes, and manipulative.
Yes, and not in the 20 gate 26 way either.
Right, exactly. In that it is presented, we've talked about this before on the podcast, but it's presented as a magic bullet or a silver bullet that, like, okay, just know these few things and you're gonna, triple your sales, or, like, no. Because and this is where I'm going with this exploration for the moment. You can be totally you're not, and these people, you have met these people who are so freaking successful, quote unquote successful, from a 3D version of success measure. They make so much money. They have, maybe I'll speak for myself from the financial advisory investment management world, so the finance world. People that make so much money, multiple seven figures a year, run businesses that make, in the tens of millions of dollars of revenue per year, have lots of employees, have the fancy cars, get the suits tailor made to their body, every couple years. And they are fucking miserable in their lives. They're so unfulfilled and so resentful of their families, of their lives. Like, it's very sad. It really truly is. And I mean, I can say that again from being in that world and meeting so many so many people. And if you are in any finance adjacent uh industry, you'll probably recognize this, but financial advisors and people in finance in general, the substance abuse rate is astronomical. So many people who abuse alcohol, who abuse drugs as a numbing agent, right? Part of, you'll, and why do we know this? Because one, there's statistics on it, but when you're in those rooms, when you're at those happy hours, when you're at an event and everyone is just getting freaking hammered, so drunk, they start telling you all the truth. You get to hear truly the sadness that's there when people are just, you know, all the truth inhibitors are released, and, and you're getting the real story, right? And it's not it's not just that industry either, but it is, it's indicative. It's what we kind of know.
Mhm.
It's not a secret that just, money doesn't buy happiness, all of those things. That's true. There is truth to that,
Yes.
that just creating the monetary success does not lead to fulfillment, does not lead to happiness, does not lead to uh, successful and loving relationships. But by the time they get there, so this was again my experience of being in this world and seeing advisors who were in their, I was in my 30s, uh, in their mid 40s, in their 50s, in their 60s, even up into their 70s. They never retire. Some of these people, but like really seeing the unhappiness that they lived with every day, and that their only actual happiness, one of the reasons they don't retire, is because their only happiness is at work.
Mm,
Everything else is like they just want it to go away. And so living in the not self, living in that expression of, I mean, that is such a huge waving red flag of, you're not in alignment with yourself because you pretty much hate your life outside of work.
right. It's before we hopped on, we were having a discussion. We have listener, we always hold on.
Little sip.
Yeah, I need a little some water. We always kind of preempt the episode just to kind of get our thoughts out. And one of the things that came up when we were talking before the episode was this idea of who we are and what we achieve are two different things. And just in modern society, the pressure to do has also become the pressure to become, right? Like we've combined those two things. It says who I am is what I achieve and vice versa.
Yeah.
And, going back to it is, a great example. Exactly what you're saying. Like you can be a not self and be one of the most quote unquote successful people on the planet, that you can be so miserable on the inside and so working against who you are. But quote unquote results say you're wildly successful. And then I always love to use these kinds of examples of, I'm going to pronounce her name wrong, but the Olympics just ended, and looking at Elisa Liu, who basically was like, I'm, I- every Olympian is there to do the best they possibly can. Like the end goal is a medal, right? No Olympian goes to the Olympics to be like, well, I hope I come in dead fucking last. And that's cool. I mean, some of them know they're not going to make the podium, but they want to do the best. And her message was basically just like, it's not the medal that I'm after. I mean, yes, I am, but that's not the crux of why I'm here. It's to show for anybody who doesn't know, she's an American figure skater. She's like, I'm just here to show my art. I'm here to express myself through skating. And I'm just sitting there like, as a former athlete, I was like, God, I wish I could have gotten to that place of like, I wish my results weren't who who I was, right? In this idea that who we are and our results are two different things, that like the expression of who we are is truly the reward. But we get so wrapped up in the results of I need the money, the appearance of nothing is ever wrong. And I live in this world where I'm just showered with everything that I could possibly dream of in this entire world. And, just in the world of business, whether you own it or you're working in it, of looking at what success and abundance and prosperity and results really mean, that your reward actually is tied to who you are versus what you're going to get out of what you do.
Hmm.
But those are two very hard concepts to separate.
Yeah. Yes, and it comes back to, kind of what we said. Like you can be outside, you can go against who you are and be very successful in the traditional sense of the monetary world and abundance world. And on the flip side, you can be very in tune with who you are and not be experiencing that financial success, but very focused on that and wanting to, we all know that version as well, right? Of like the person who is maybe extremely spiritual or extremely again, like really focused on healing and healing trauma and all, and then also, and because I get a behind the curtains view
Mhm.
when we look at the money side, but the money's not flowing. And it's that piece starts to really undermine the work, because in this world, in this expression of the collective as we are now, money is the safety net. In especially in the United States and most of the Western world, and in increasingly more of the world in general, money is the thing that people are after so that they can buy food, so that they can have shelter, right? So we can meet the Maslow's hierarchy of needs, right? So it follows that, while money isn't everything, it is also important. And what are we doing here then? Like that was the question we got to. Like what are we what's the differentiation here? Is that we're not saying that, hey, learn these 5 pieces about your human design and your gene keys and make all the money in the world. We're not saying that. What we are saying is that by knowing yourself, by knowing who you are and who you're not, you then have the opportunity to work within those parameters of who you are. That means we get to then try the different strategies in business, in work, in life that are more tailored to you than just the generic, this is what works. I'm not throwing Alex Hormozy under the bus here, but that style of, this is how it works and this is what you should do. So just do these steps and do them and this way, this way. This is the only way.
Yes.
That to me, I like can't even listen to it. I'm not.
No.
It
Anytime something like that comes on my phone, I just wanna throw my phone across the room and be like, "Okay, but
right.
I'm gonna stop you right there."
I can't do it. But also again, and we'll talk more about this with, your type, with your authority, like all of these things paint a picture, your specific channels and gates, all of that. That paints a picture of, okay, let's try this lane for you. Let's try this strategy for you, because it is the combination of knowing yourself, knowing who you are and knowing who you're not, and then trying the strategies that are correct for you and for your team. It's not knowing yourself and then just sitting back and waiting for things to come to you.
Right. Yes. Okay. Your hopefully your memory is better than mine because you just brought up a great point. So listener, last week we held an event and you had a really great line. It was something about there was something about forcing something, like, and without intention, it becomes wandering aimlessly. This idea that, we work so hard to force all of these things. And yet then we can flip the script to say, well, okay, I'm not going to force. So I'm going to be a little bit more open. But when oftentimes if we swing the pendulum too far, which I know I'm guilty of this, swinging the pendulum too far, well, then I become an aimless kind of wanderer of just sitting in the corner, quote unquote, proverbially, right? Waiting for something to happen and then being like, well, why isn't anything happening? But what you just said is the main point. It's like, understand who you are through your own energy, whether it's human design or gene keys. Then start playing around with very specific strategies related to the mechanics of that energy to start seeing what works. And it's this idea that it's not about forcing anything. And when we start to get into the very specific mechanics of type, right? It's not about generators forcing productivity. It's not about projectors forcing connection and clarity. It's not about manifestors forcing initiation and impact, and reflectors, heck, forcing it all, right? Productivity, connection, and impact or initiation. But how do you start getting into the specifics of who you are and picking and pulling and trying to maneuver within that world? And then as you unravel or uncover how some of these strategies work for you or they don't, then you start gaining an understanding of, okay, well, here's how I can be a little bit more intentional. Here's how I can start finding the harmony between trying to achieve something without feeling I need to force it, or over identifying with the results
Mhm.
becoming my identity.
Right. Yes, results as identity is the thing that gets us so attached,
Yes.
right? Like, I have to have a seven-figure business or I have to have an eight-figure business to be successful, or as an employee, I have to be I have to be a director, then I have to be a VP, then I have to be in the C-suite in order to be successful, right? Like, attaching to our identity to what we do versus who we're being, and are we expressing our truest version of ourselves.
Yes.
And okay, so what you were talking about, I found it so I could say it exactly the same again. That vision without surrender is force.
Mhm.
So you have the vision, right? Maybe you do, and I've had this before. Again, I have like 6 lines in my profile. I get visionary information all the time. I'll see like what's beyond where we are right now.
Mhm.
I'll see the $50 million company and be like, that's a thing, but I don't know where it's at right now. So if I see the $50 million company and then I try to reverse engineer everything that I think goes into making that, and I don't surrender, that's the forcing,
Mhm.
right? So it's, I have the vision and I'm going to do fucking everything in my power
Yes.
to make it happen. I will get there. That's force. And what we're saying here is that yes, sometimes that actually does work. That can be successful. So if I'm forcing my way up to the $50 million company, we put that on the top of we'll call it an 18,000-foot peak. So it's not just a 14er, that's an 18er. I don't even know if there are very many of those. But we're gonna go from sea level to 18,000 feet, and I'm gonna force my way up there. Sure, I might get there. I might not feel very good by the time I get there. And that's what we're saying. Like, if that might not be the right way for me to do it, is be like, I'm going to go straight up and I'm going to just climb everything and I'm going to go right. Maybe the way up the 18er is, oh, there's an easier trail.
Mhm. Or maybe not, maybe it's longer. Maybe it's maybe it is easier, but it's longer.
Right. Maybe the switchbacks are there for a reason, right? Because they get you up the mountain a little more gently. Um, but anyway, so surrendering to the flow of life.
Yes.
So you have the vision. So vision without surrendering to the flow of life means you're forcing it. If you fully are surrendered to the flow of life without any vision, that's drift.
There it is.
Yeah.
That's what I was going for. I
Right.
didn't get there, but
You're just floating on the river. No, you're like, I can't control anything. I'm just going with the flow. We've I think, well, maybe you've met them. I've met people like that as well. They're like, I don't I don't force anything. I just go with the flow and it just is what it is. I, if that's what, if for some people that, I don't know, that could be correct
Right.
for
And it
them.
could work. They could get to their 50 million that way.
Right. And they just don't know. The river just took them and they didn't make a choice. They got to a fork in the river and they just let the river flow them either way. Right. And they just didn't. And that's drifting. Integration of the vision and the surrender is when you are in flow. You're not just drifting, but you're going with the flow of life. And also you're in your kayak, right? So when you get to the rapids, because we're all going to get to the rapids, we're going to have choppy waters. You get to navigate those choppy waters in your boat
Yes.
with your paddle versus just floating.
Yes. And that boat in your paddle is your energy,
Mhm.
that you're meeting life through your energy, and you're finding the integration between vision and surrender, or the harmony, or the whatever word you want to use. And that's what it's really all about. You have to, we came on this episode, listener, we're kind of like, what's the message? Um, the message is really that who you are and what you achieve are two different things. Yes, they are connected and interrelated, but they are not. What's the word I'm looking for?
Well, it feels like it's not what you achieve is not your who you are. It's
Or
not your identity.
right. And just recognizing that there's an opportunity to remove yourself from the grips of expectations of what you think you need to achieve and how you need to achieve it through force, and recognizing. And we had this conversation before we hopped on too, is, I tend to go with accept your limitation. And by that, I mean, accept that the definition in your energy is only meant to do certain things and only meant to go so far in the context of what you're doing. And that's where relationships, a little bit of surrender, a little bit of self-awareness, and, checking yourself, right? That's where all of it comes in, is that, like, yes, you have a limitation because you're here to make a very specific contribution. Ooh, Hannah, here we go. But your limitation can also be um, added on, supplemented in connection with the correct others, so that your limitation now becomes can expand based on either who you've brought into your business if you own one, who you interact with in a role or a business if you work for one, and that your limitation is set so that you know what contribution you're here to make, but also recognizing that contribution probably comes with a connection of a lot of different people to support you in getting up to that 18,000-foot peak and reaching your $50 million.
Yeah. You know what? I think we need to work through that metaphor because there's a lot. That could be a really good one.
Listener, just bear with us. We'll get there.
We're getting there. But truly, right? If you go alone up the peak, you got to carry everything by yourself. You got to carry enough water. It's probably going to take you at least a full day. You got to carry your water. You got to carry food. You got to carry
Your
your
backpack, your sleeping bag, your
right. If it's going to take
everything.
overnight, you got to bring your stuff. You got to have your first aid kit. Right. You need everything. Versus if you have a group, if you know what you're here to carry, and you can connect with others or understand the connection that others are here to bring. So, hey, I'm here. I'm supposed to carry these different aspects. Lauren's here to carry these other different aspects. And together we can go farther more
Mhm.
easily. We can carry the weight together with our own, honoring each of our energies, each of our beings, each of our true expression complements one another. And so that's what feels really important to tap into, is that we are the definition or the limitations of your definition, if we want to put it that way. And I do want to put it that way because then people feel that and they go, ew, I don't like that. It feels crunchy. So
It sure
please,
does.
right? Tell me, why does that feel crunchy? Um, but before we started recording, I was having a realization right at that moment that, yeah, from your energy as a 1-3, and then we were kind of looking specifically at a 1-3 profile. Lauren's a 1-3 profile. I'm a 6-2 profile. And then in our conscious Jupiter placements, Lauren's a 2 and I'm a 6. A 2 line, and the Jupiter placement is in Gene Keys is your pearl sphere. It's your relationship to prosperity in this lifetime, and also your essence, what you're here to bring, just who you are at your core. Um, and so those energies, the 2 line in the pearl versus the 6 line in the pearl, carry different lessons. The 2 line is here to learn how to receive. And that has been a lesson, right?
That's been a big lesson
Yeah.
for me.
And so you're here to learn how to receive recognition, especially recognition for, I don't know, going on stage and doing a kick ass job. You're here to receive all the praise that you deserve from that, right? Where I'm a 6 line in that area. The 6 line sees beyond, it sees the system for what it is and sees where it could go. It sees the big vision. But then there's the pain in that of seeing where we're not living up to it. We're not living up to the potential. We're not living up to how prosperity, how money should flow through the economy so that prosperity is experienced by all. There's deep pain in that
Mhm.
from my 6 line. And again, knowing and seeing what it should be. And yet, so for you in that space of feeling like, here's how we work within our limitations, and thinking in those, um, like that lower trigram space, the 1 line, the 3 line, the 2 line, in all those spaces, right? Then I'm in the 6, I'm in the upper trigram on it, 2/3 of that. And the 6 line, the interpersonal, how we interact with others. Even just between the 2 of us, we get to see a bigger spectrum, a wider spectrum than what, like, if I just assumed my vision was the only right one, then I would be over here, like, trying to, like, force my vision without understanding that, oh, no, there are people that experience the world very differently, and they bring a very important contribution that my 6 line needs to perk up and listen to.
Mhm. Mhm. Yeah, the analogy that I keep coming back to in all of this is, well, one, it's also very helpful for me, someone who has a lot of lower trigram lines in all of my profile. Like, nearly my entire unconscious side is lines 1 through 3. I think I have 1 4 line on my unconscious side. So my body is literally here to just be like, "I don't know that there's anybody else out there. What's going on?" So, the lesson to even know that I'm here to learn how to receive, and that a lot of times it is such a huge surprise to me that my words even land, or that people even see me. And I don't mean that in like a self-deprecating kind of way. I literally mean that from an energetic standpoint. Like sometimes I'm like, oh, I, I'm just over here living in my own world. I had no idea anybody was looking in. But to your point, like to force that vision, but almost from my point of view, it's like when you're saying like the sixth line to force your vision that way, from my point of view, it's kind of like being able to then look outside myself and learn that lesson. Yours may be more from the inside out, mine may be more from the outside in, or vice versa. I can't process words right now. But
Fair.
um, but like the bigger analogy I always come to, and again, for anybody out there listening who knows me, it always comes back to sports for me because that's just how my brain works. But one of the things is that we're talking about the mountain and how we're bringing different perspectives, or like what I'm able to carry is different from what you're able to carry. But if we divide those things up, we can get up the mountain much more efficiently because we're carrying what we're here to carry. We're contributing what we're here to contribute. And I always go back to the analogy as a swimmer, right? And this idea that I can swim every stroke and put me in any event. And yes, I can quote unquote successfully do it. And by successfully, I mean get from one end to the other and do all the laps I'm supposed to do. But it was at like 11 or 12 that I recognized, hey, I really like distance swimming. I'm really good at distance swimming. That doesn't mean I stopped swimming all of the other strokes. It simply meant that was my contribution to the team. There were other people who swam butterfly and breaststroke and backstroke. And oh, by the way, some were better at 200 versus 100. Some were better at 400 IM. And so we all created this contribution, but we all came together and were a team. And in that team performed what we were here to perform based on our own talents. And that's how I look at energy, is that like my energy is here to be a distance swimmer. And I know you can swim. Your energy is here to be a butterflyer. And together we create this really great team because you bring your talents and you can perform in that way. I bring my talents and I can perform in that way. And so long as we're doing it more for you and me as generators, for the satisfaction of giving our energy to those things that we really want to be productive about, that's where prosperity comes in. That's the contribution we make as a leader. Those are the contributions we make inside the systems. That's what leads to the money we're here to experience.
Oof. It's so good. And it brought up like such a visceral memory for me. So not I can swim. I'm from
Yeah.
Arizona. We all learn how to swim here because you have to. So otherwise the pools are dangerous if your kids don't know how to swim. So I can swim, but I was a softball player. I played softball for 10 years and I was very good at shortstop. Shortstop was my position. I was excellent at it. I got onto a traveling team when I was in junior high, a club team, and they already had a shortstop. But I my energy was magnetic. I'm very excited. Was very, very talented, and they wanted me on the team. Well, they kept putting me everywhere else because they had a shortstop and they didn't want to pull her. And for whatever, the politics of it, her parent, blah, blah, blah. They didn't want her to have to do anything else ever. So they would stick me in the outfield. They would stick me on second base. God, second base was hard. I sucked at second base. Uh,
I'll give you all the credit in the world. Couldn't get out there to do any position. So
right. But I mean, they're all so different. And in this analogy, it works really well because each position is quite different.
yes.
You see the world, you see the field from a different perspective. And for whatever reason, different people are suited to different positions. And so me on that particular team, constantly having to go to the outfield, I was not, as a generator, I was not excited.
Yeah.
I
Not
can
satisfied.
I can totally go back to that feeling and feel exactly where my energy was even as a 12-year-old. and just feeling like how sad and shut down I was being in the outfield. Where we had other girl like, there was another girl who was the center fielder, she was amazing. She was so good, and she was great, and she loved it, but put me out there, and I'm, fully shut down and just not very good at that position, and so I ended up moving to a different team, where I got to play shortstop and friggin' killed it, so much so that the coaches were like, "Well, where was that girl?" "Hi, this is where I'm meant to be on the field." And the visceral, memory that came up as you were talking was I remember one game in particular. I had, in the weeks before, I had gotten 2 black eyes, from 2 like, 1 at practice and 1 at a game. I, like, literally, like, both like, it was very traumatizing.
Yeah.
So I was having for probably a good couple of months, I was having a really hard time with whenever the ball would come to me, I would be down and I would pull my head, right? Which you eyes on the ball. Eyes have to be on the ball. Know where you're going with it. But my body was protecting my eyes because I had just gotten slammed with in each eye.
Yeah.
This is not great. And in this game, I had the experience of overcoming that fear. My body, like the muscle memory of exactly what I was supposed to do, like everything happening perfectly. And just, like, making play after play. Like, I remember being in such a flow state in that game and feeling amazing about it, and we ended up losing. We played our hearts out, the whole team.
Mhm.
We worked so hard. We lost in the very last inning, and I remember coming off the field, and a couple of the girls were really sad and kinda crying. I remember, like, comforting them because I knew that I contributed everything I could. I felt so good, so satisfied with my contribution, and I saw how hard everyone else worked that couldn't feel sad about it. There was no sadness for me. There was only, like, complete appreciation for the fact that it was like I was in flow, and it was awesome, and trauma maybe for another day, but my parents were really mad about it. They're like, How can you be happy about that?" And I was like, "I left it all on the field."
Yeah.
I did everything I could, and I feel really good about how much effort we put in, and that's what matters. And that again, that aspect of, like, feeling that from a generator perspective, feeling that satisfaction, I can totally name it that now.
Yes.
I couldn't necessarily then, when I was a child, but that pure satisfaction
Yes.
of getting to contribute in the way that I was meant to contribute is that's what mattered.
Yes. 2 extremely important things came up as you were talking. One, that, generators are here to be productive. We're here to use our energy, our open and enveloping energy, this magnetic energy in a way that's very specific to us based on all the definition. But then when we're doing so, it brings satisfaction. Like for a generator, it truly is the process or the journey or the whatever metaphor or euphemism you want to use in this respect. For us, it really is about the journey process. The results or whatever the results are going to be. We can't control that. And it's not wrong to feel really satisfied that, hey, my contribution was amazing. And again, this goes back to this collective version of what success looks like. Yes, no athlete goes out to lose.
Right.
No athlete plays to lose. We're like, yep, doesn't really matter. But at that same time, the majority of athletes lose.
Most of the time.
Yes. Especially in sports like softball and baseball. Like a good batting average is hitting 3 out of 10. Like, what
Right.
the hell? Like, logically speaking, that doesn't make sense. And for swimmers, you're going to lose a hell of a lot more than you're going to win. But hell, I can remember times where I swam like out of my mind and I probably was like, I don't know, fucking 86th or out of like, you know, the 250 swimmers, like, yep, nowhere near the fucking podium, but I felt really good about what I just did. And that was amazing. So it's understanding your energy mechanics and recognizing that even if you don't get the results that you think you need in order to quote unquote be successful, doesn't mean you're not successful. Doesn't mean that you haven't used that energy correctly, whatever your type may be. The other lesson that that came up as you were talking is the idea of when they didn't put you at shortstop, right? And your performance was already diminished the moment you weren't put in the thing that brought you satisfaction. Like you're just, you arrived at like, okay, yeah, I'll do the outfield. Not at all where I want to be. But your energy was already like, I don't have availability for this. This is not what I want to use my energy for. But because I want to be on the team or I'm on the team and I want to make a contribution, I'm going to go over here. And you're like, oh, I mean, okay. But the moment you move to the other team, they put you where you want, where you're not, yes, where you wanted to be, but you wanted to be there because you knew it brought you satisfaction. Whether you could name that as a child, you probably couldn't. Your body knew, like, hell yeah, this is where I want to be. Just like my body knew at 11 or 12. Most kids don't choose distance swimming. Most kids are like, I'll never swim a mile. And I was like, put me in, coach. I want to swim a mile. I want to swim all the laps. And it brought me so much satisfaction.
Yeah.
And that's what I mean by the accepting the limitation. Is that like, and we'll use the sports analogy. Like a lot of people, especially these days, a lot of kids want to get on a traveling team to see they got on a traveling team. And then they get on the traveling team for the notoriety of being on that traveling team. They don't like it because it was more about the team or the notoriety or the perceived prosperity of being on that team versus being who you are and contributing what you're here to contribute. And the same in the business world, whether you own it or whether you're working in it as a traditional employee, like we try to force our way into something that we think that it has the perceived prosperity. And then we get there, just like we started the episode, and I'm like, fucking miserable. This is awful. I mean, I had that experience. Thought I wanted to be a department head. I got there and I was like, absolutely not. Right? And someone set me aside and was like, honey, you're a 1-3. Most of all the lines in your chart are on the lower end of the triangle. Honey, you're absorbed in your own life. You're going to have a really hard time leading a team if you're stressed, if you're forcing your own productivity. You're getting wrapped up in your own productivity and forget about your team, which is what happened. But had I had any awareness about that earlier in my career to be like, maybe leading a team isn't success for me. Maybe having a high level individual contributor where it's just me, I get to go deep, I get to be an expert in something, and then I get to share that knowledge with other people. Oh my God. Yes. Let me do that. But I didn't know that at the time. I tried to force my productive energy to go and lead a team and be the head of all the things. And once I was head of all the things, I was like, oh, dear God, this sucks. I don't want to know about all these things.
Yeah.
Somebody else handle them.
Well, what comes up for me, and this will absolutely be, we're going to continue this conversation throughout the month, is that, going back to the sports analogy and the softball team and me, again, as a child, as a 12-year-old, like you said, I didn't necessarily have the language for that. And what we're told from the time we're little is to just be a team player. We need you in the outfield, so you just got to go in the outfield. And we can all do that. And I did that. I want to say, like, I was not like the little mopey, angry child.
Yeah.
I was a very compliant child. I went to the outfield and I did the best I could. And it wasn't until it kept happening over and over. And I never got to be in my zone of genius. I never got to be shortstop on that team. I was always put somewhere where I didn't fit. I was always put into a position that was not my best. And so over time, it took the whole season, right? It was it got worse and worse and worse until my energy couldn't do it anymore.
Mhm.
Until they were, at the end, they were like, "Hey, are you paying attention out in the outfield?" I was like, "Oh, yeah, here I am." No, I wasn't. I was really, like, just wishing I could be anywhere else. But at the beginning of it, I was happy to be on the team, and I was like, "Okay, yes, I'll do the thing. I'll be the team player." And when we bring that into again, bring it up to adulthood, bring it into the workplace, bring it into the ecosystem of people working together, you can see that in your team, right? Where is your team member, like, in their most happy, exuberant, satisfied expression, right? Or successful, or delighted, or peaceful, right? Depending on your energy signature. Where is your teammate in that most embodied expression of who they are? And where are you asking them to constantly be in the outfield, or constantly be in a position that where they're like, yeah, I'm a team player. I'm going to take one for the team. You can only do that for so long.
Yeah. And this isn't an all or nothing kind of situation either, right? It's like, how do we, whether you're a leader of your own business or you're a leader within a business that you're working for, it's not about like only give your team members things that light them up, that lead to success or peace or delightedness or satisfaction. But how do you start creating more of a harmony? That, we all have things that we don't want to do, and we're all going to have to do things that don't bring us the greatest sense of satisfaction. But to your point, where might you be doing it out of a misunderstanding of your own energy as a leader and the misunderstanding of how your team members' energy works, and then finding the harmony between those things, or bringing in other team members to start shifting responsibilities or work or systems in a different way to align to the energy a little bit better. It's never going to be perfect, right? We live in the real world. We live in the not self world. Shit's going to hit the fan. We're all going to have to do things that is like, ugh, okay, I'll trudge through this today. But on the other end is, oh, okay, well, it's going to be satisfying tomorrow. Or how can we make it satisfying or successful or peaceful or delighted tomorrow?
Yeah. Exactly, exactly. It's such a beautiful balancing act once you are aware. So always the first step. Always the first step to the process, discovery, alignment, expansion, right? Which is also on the Expansive CEO website. The discovery of where is your genius? Where
Yes.
are you most lit up? Like, that's part of the whole self-discovery process and self-leadership process, is understanding that about you. And then the alignment side is about, like, okay, how do we start to move in the direction? Because it, yes, sometimes you're going to have to, if you're the CEO and your VP of sales is out, or they leave for some reason, or they're on maternity leave, or who knows, right? You might have to jump back into put your sales VP hat back on for a second. Maybe that's not where your brightest energy is anymore, but you do take one for the team, and you get in there and you do what you got to do, knowing that it's temporary and you're going to get back to your aligned role as soon as you can.
Mhm.
And I think that's where being able to do that from an intentional space versus an unconscious space is another piece of what we're building towards, is that you get to make that choice consciously versus just being like, ah, shit, I have to do this again. I hate it and I'm so mad and I'm like, hate having to do this. Like, okay, well, if you intentionally choose, I know I need to support in this way and I'm going to jump in and I'm going to do it. And then we're going to come back out. I'm going to come back into alignment. I'm going to go back to shortstop.
Yeah.
I'm going to go back to get back to swimming the miles. It makes the journey lighter and it makes it more collaborative. It makes it more supportive. It makes for a kinder work environment overall. And if there's anything that I feel like I'm here uh, to support, and I feel like we are here to help people create, it's that like truly supportive work environments.
Mhm.
Tr- uh, Prosperity comes when you let go of, again, you're not going to win everything, but prosperity comes when you can continue on the journey, when your energy is such that, like, when I was on shortstop, I could play the whole game always, right? I had the energy to persevere
Mhm.
when I was in my brightest energy. That is where prosperity can take root. It has time to grow. It has time to actually grow and germinate when you can utilize your energy where it's the brightest consistently.
Yeah. And here's yeah. Oh, this is the last thing I'll say is, like, there's already so much shit to do in a business, whether you're running it or you're working in it. No need to force anything else,
Right.
right? You know, learn where you shine. And as a team, how do you come together to understand where everybody shines? Like, as a leader, one, starting with self-leadership. What is the contribution you're here to make? And then understanding the contributions of your teammates energetically. And how do you realign systems to support a potentially different way of aligning energy to lead to expansion and prosperity?
Yep, absolutely. Well, we are going to put a pin in it right there because we're going to come back next week. And for the rest of March, we have lots of time to continue this conversation and talk about what does that mean? What does that even more, not to get super granular necessarily. That doesn't feel like the right way to go with it, but to continue to examine this, why does it feel so bad and hard and to be in your not self all the time, and what are the other question that's coming up is what are the signs? What are we looking for? We know them, right? Like, we know. You could probably, dear listener, you could listen, you can list out, what do you know? What's telling you that you're out of alignment? What in your current, even in your, like, literally in your current work, at home, in your relationships, what is feeling out of alignment right now? Because it's where you don't, if you're a generator, it's where you're not feeling satisfaction. It's, if you're a manifester, it's where you're not feeling peace. If you're a reflector, it's where you're not feeling that surprise and delight. If you're a projector, it's where you're not feeling successful. And that's such a good, um, yeah, we're gonna kind of like roll with that of like, let's talk about what it feels like when you're not in it,
Yes.
so that you can start to become aware of, what does it feel like when you are? What does it feel like when you are in the right spot, just the right spot on the team? 'Cause we're not that's the other piece of it is so few of us are here to do it alone.
Ugh,
There's I
yeah.
mean, there are some people, we're not gonna say, for sure, but that is such a small percentage of the population. Most of us are here to walk together in collaboration.
Yes. And it's understanding how that collaboration really works for you. And that not everybody is here to you're not here to collaborate with everybody. And that's the other dynamic on a team is recognizing when, hey, maybe there are some energies that just don't jive. And how do you work in that?
Mhm. So good. Okay, I can't wait. As always, if you have questions, if you're like, "Oh my gosh, okay, but what about this?" Send us questions. You can send questions to Lauren at expansiveceo.com. Um, we would love to hear from you or hear like what's been landing so far. Again, this is our first second month?
Second month, yeah.
Second month fully of, this new focus. So what do you wanna hear more of? We're fully here to respond also to, yes, what you wanna hear and what you wanna know more about and what you wanna lean into. Love to co-create this with our beautiful, beautiful listeners. So thank you for listening, everyone. We will see you next time.
Bye, friends.